We just finished up 3 days of amazing riding on Triumph's Scrambler 1200, XC and XE models. And I have to say, right off the bat, unbelievable job what they did with these motorcycles. Let's start with the engine. It's the high power 1200 Bonneville. It's the same motor that's essentially in the Thruxton R with some internal changes. If you want to find out all the details on that, just check out the article. Character of the motor though, it's real torquey off the bottom. It pulls out of corners and it's got a really good throttle response. It yanks, it pulls. It's perfect for the work in the dirt. At the top, it signs off a little bit, but for a scrambler, it's an excellent power plant, and for a street bike, it's a good power plant. Let's talk about the suspension. That is the most important aspect of these motorcycles, I think, over almost anything when you're comparing them to any other scrambler and even some adventure bikes. At the rear, you've got an Öhlins shock absorber, piggyback shock, 2 springs in the back, and they are different lengths depending on which model. At the front, Showa cartridge forks. Over here, we have a 45mm fork, and over here, we have a 47mm fork. The only difference is the length of travel. In terms of ride quality and suspension action, they're almost identical. They both work really well in the dirt, and they both work great on the street. The only thing you notice is if you're doing some real hardcore off-roading, you're gonna bottom this one out a little more than you are this one because you obviously have some more ground clearance and you have a little more stroke to work with. Another difference between the bikes when you're talking about the suspension is the length of the swing arm. The XE has a longer swing arm than the XC, which gives it that extra travel, but also gives it extra length. So it's a little more stable, but it's not too long. I rode the XC on a motocross track yesterday, and I was actually able to drop into inside ruts like a dirt bike and ride ruts like a dirt bike. In the dirt, out there on the trails, we actually jumped them. We rode them through braking bumps, through whoops, and I have to say, I haven't ridden a street bike that works so good in the dirt ever. And that includes adventure bikes. Differences are this comes with the Off-Road Pro setting. This has just off-road. So Off-Road Pro turns everything off. You can turn off the ABS, traction control, and have full power, where in off-road, you still have front ABS and you have a traction control setting that's set up for the dirt. Both settings work well, but if you're super hardcore, this is the one you're gonna go with. Other differences, the bars on the XE are slightly wider and a little bit taller with a riser that you can remove to adjust 10mm up and down. And this feels more like a dirt bike to me. This feels like a scrambler or an adventure bike, and this feels like a dirt bike. This you feel immediately home at if you're a dual sport rider or a hardcore rider, where this feels at home if you're a street bike person. If you're riding the street, XC all day long. The lower ride height, it just handles better in the corners. This, you're up a little bit higher and you feel that when you're transitioning from side to side and turning into a corner. The big question that a lot of people are gonna be asking is it the best scrambler? And I think that might be the case. We can't say until we test it against all the rest, but pretty much I'm saying it's setting a new standard in scrambling. Amazing suspension, really good ergonomics, control of your GoPro camera from your screen, turn-by-turn Google navigation. Both systems weren't ready for the press launch, so we didn't get to test them. We saw a demo. Super slick systems, and they work well. Obviously, you don't have any wind protection if you're comparing this to an adventure bike. So this is not a miss on the bike itself, but if you're comparing it to an adventure bike, there's no wind protection. So when you get on the highway, if you're straight lining it, it's not gonna be as comfortable. It doesn't have a tire pressure sensor monitor, and it doesn't show you the ambient temperature, which are two things that are not massively important, but good things to have when you are adventure riding. I would say if you're a weekend adventurer, this is gonna be the bike for you. Above all, I wanna say once again, Triumph did an amazing job with this motorcycle, and I think we're gonna need to do a shootout, and I think it's gonna be in a couple shootouts. One against all the scramblers and one against all the adventure bikes. So stay tuned.